You ever look at a government and just wonder, why do perfectly good long-term plans keep getting thrown out every few years? It's this really frustrating puzzle, right? Some countries seem to build things that last for decades, while others feel like they're just stuck on a hamster wheel of constant resets. Well, the reason? It's probably not what you think. Let's get into it.
All right, so let's start with what seems obvious. When you see these good ideas getting scrapped over and over, it's super tempting to grab for the simplest explanation, to make a quick diagnosis for what feels like this chronic, short-term thinking.
The first thing that probably comes to mind is this: roles change so fast. Ministers are barely in the job long enough to find the coffee machine before they're shuffled off somewhere else. That's got to be part of it.
And then, of course, there's the 24/7 media glare. I mean, every single decision, every tiny slip-up, it's captured, it's clipped, and it's all over the internet in minutes. The scrutiny is just relentless.
So, yeah, all of that just adds up to this incredible pressure. A pressure to do something, anything, right now, to deliver something visible before the news cycle moves on. And you'd think, okay, case closed. That's the problem. But it's just a little too neat, isn't it?
I mean, think about it. If those pressures are happening everywhere, and they are, then why are the results so different from one place to another? This gets us to a much more interesting question. What is it about the actual design of some systems that lets these long-term plans survive, even when the whole world seems to be hitting fast forward?
And that right there leads us straight into the biggest myth, the trap we all fall into. The idea that some countries just have, better politicians. People who are more serious, more thoughtful, maybe just have a different temperament.
But really, that whole idea just kind of falls apart when you look closer. The truth is, politicians are politicians wherever you go. The incentives are pretty similar. That intense media pressure, it's global. Big crises like a financial crash or a pandemic, they don't stop at the border. So if the pressures are the same, but the outcomes are different, the problem isn't the people. It has to be the system.
So, okay, if it's not about finding better people, then we've got to look at what structurally works. And the point here isn't to rank countries or say this one is better than that one. It's about finding the actual mechanisms that change the incentives so you don't need superhuman politicians to get things done.
So let's take a look at a few examples of this in action. In Germany, a lot of their industrial strategy is built into institutions that exist alongside the government, so a new minister can't just come in and rip everything up. In New Zealand, you have these independent bodies that completely change the conversation. It stops being, should we do this, and becomes, are we actually hitting our long-term targets? And in Sweden, powerful committees make it politically really costly to just tear up a plan for a quick short-term win. See the pattern? In every one of these cases, the system is set up to make continuity the easy option.
So what's the common thread running through all of this? It's not about a particular voting system or, just nicer politicians. It's this really cool concept, institutional memory with teeth. This is the big idea that really connects all these successful systems.
Institutional memory with teeth is basically a system where big, long-term plans are structurally shielded from all that day-to-day political chaos. And the teeth part? That's absolutely crucial. That's what gives the memory its power. It makes sticking with the plan a politically safe, totally defensible choice.
Okay, so what does that actually look like? Well, first, the plans don't belong to one specific person, like a minister or a prime minister. They belong to the institution itself. Second, progress isn't just measured by what you can get done before the next election. It's measured over much longer timelines. And third, and this is the real kicker, if you want to reverse a major plan, you can't just do it because you have the authority. You have to explain yourself, build consensus. The system deliberately adds friction. And this is really the whole point. We're always talking about how we need politicians with more courage to think about the long term. But what if that's the wrong way to look at it? In these better designed systems, it's not about courage. The system is built so that staying the course is the rational, politically smart thing to do. It makes patience less of a risk.
Okay, but right about now you might be thinking, hang on, don't we have things like this already? What about all those arm's-length bodies and agencies? And that's a great question. But it brings us to a really interesting complication. A point where the intended solution can kind of morph into just a way of coping.
Well, let's trace the typical journey they go on. First, the theory is perfect. You delegate a big, complex issue to an independent body to protect it from the daily political winds. Great. But then over time, there's a shift. That protection starts to get weaker. The body starts absorbing all the political chaos instead of deflecting it. And that brings us to the new reality. They're not really continuity machines anymore. They've become shock absorbers, just taking the hits so the main political system doesn't have to slow down.
And this quote just nails it perfectly. What started as a real solution to a problem just becomes a way to cope with the symptoms. The original goal, to create real stability, gets lost.
Which of course leaves us with a pretty uncomfortable question, doesn't it? If the core system is still running on those super fast timelines and rewarding constant change, are these bodies actually fixing the problem, or are they just moving the pressure around, basically hiding the problem so we don't have to solve it?
And this really brings us to the heart of the matter. This isn't about blaming individual politicians or parties. It's about seeing that the system we've built is a product of design choices, not some kind of reflection on anyone's moral character.
And when you put the two side by side, the difference is just stark. In those safer systems we talked about, continuity is the default. It's the path of least resistance. But in riskier systems, a really powerful dynamic takes over. Staying the course feels politically dangerous, but changing things, ripping up the old plan, always looks like action. The system itself rewards the reset.
And that leaves us with one last really crucial thought to chew on. If you build a system that consistently rewards speed over patience, visibility over substance, and constant resets over continuity, what kind of people do you think are going to thrive in that system? And maybe even more importantly, who takes one look at all that, decides it's not for them, and never even steps into the arena in the first place? That's the real question the design of our systems leaves us with.